This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, hello, this is your host, Harry Wilkinson, and welcome once again to the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in politics and sports, entertainment, anything that you interact with in your daily world. And we take a look at it from a higher perspective. From a higher perspective means from, you could call it a metaphysical perspective, you could call it a spiritual perspective. Basically, it's taking a look at all of these stories that we are creating in the world around us, and looking at what they are telling us about ourselves. You know, many people, particularly people who consider themselves to be spiritually minded, find that they have trouble dealing with stories in the media. They find them troubling. They feel like news networks only want to report, terrible news or tragedies or, the worst in human activity. And there's a degree of truth to that. What they call the gatekeepers, those are the people who make the decisions in media. They make the decisions about what stories get told, what stories get aired on the network news and so forth, or what stories get published in the newspapers. And these are your editors and your chief executive officers of the media companies and so forth and so on. They make these decisions, and they're mostly based on profit incentive or motive. In other words, they're going to try to tell the story that they think is going to get the most attention and the most viewers or the most readers, so that they can sell more ad time and make more money. So when that is the basis of much of the choices that are made, well, yeah, they're going to go for the most, salacious stories that will stop people, in their tracks, so to speak, and get their attention, even if it's only for a few minutes. So there is truth to that. However, we can use that. Rather than, as some people are wont to do, who, find these stories troubling, is, just disconnect from them and turn away from them. You can do that. I mean, you can certainly pull the plug and try never to hear any of the news that's coming across the airwaves. I'm not sure that you'll be very successful in doing that unless you move to a mountaintop somewhere. But beyond that, you miss an amazing opportunity. These stories may not have been chosen by the gatekeepers for noble reasons, but they certainly can be used in ways to really get past the negativity and go into the story, go into the situation, and make some realizations about it. Part of confronting, things that are troubling is realizing that we've created them, taking the energy from them, and accepting that they are part of the game or the illusion that we create to kind of challenge ourselves, fool ourselves into thinking that we are less than what we are, which is, divine mind at our highest level. So the game that we play is to take on the persona in this world of illusions, to take on the persona of not being that, of not being capable, of not being, able to do all of the things that at our highest being we know we can do. So we create these stories to challenge ourselves. In a way, it's like you can liken it to a game. You can liken it to a holographic, form of entertainment, or even a movie where you get absorbed into the challenges. And even though you know that the movie isn't real, you get involved in it, and you lose yourself in it, in the best movies. Anyway, so that's a very long-winded explanation of kind of the theory behind what goes on here on this show. So we always talk about it, and we always get into it more and more. So today on the show, we're going to talk about some wellness issues. We're going to talk about how to deal with stress, and we're also going to talk about dreaming and the importance of dreaming. We're going to talk about our pets and what they do for us, what they can provide for us, and why and how we have them, if we have them. And we're going to talk about some spiritual perspectives that are backed by science. So all of those things are on the menu for today. Hopefully we get to all of them. Generally on this show, we often touch on topics that we circle around, come back to on later episodes. So we may do that as well. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. Well, first, I want to go back and talk about something that we talked about on the last show, which is a new poll from the Pew Research Center that showed the changing religious landscape in the United States. And what they showed from this poll was that the population of people who consider themselves to be Christians, traditional mainstream Christians, was declining rather sharply. And this is the last poll they did was 2007. This current poll was in 2014. And between those years, there's a significant drop in those who affiliated themselves as Protestants and Catholics, mostly. But those traditional Christian those who affiliated themselves as traditional Christians dropped quite a bit. Catholics dropped from 23.9% of the population, being the second largest in the poll, by the way. They dropped down to 20.8%. Whereas Protestants, who were at 18.1% in 2007, in 2014, they dropped to 14.7%. And the number one percentage of religious affiliation in both of these polls, the 2007 one and the 2014 one, were evangelical Protestants. But even they took a bit of a drop. They were at 26.3%, and then they dropped to 25.4%. But here's the big change. Those who consider themselves to be unaffiliated with a church. Now, keep in mind, as we discussed on this program last time, the unaffiliated doesn't mean that they weren't spiritual. In fact, many of them were or consider themselves to be spiritual but not religious. But that wasn't asked in this poll. They just polled those that did not affiliate themselves with a traditional church or faith. And that number rose from 16% of the population in 2007 to 22%, 22.8% in this 2014 poll, meaning that it became the second largest percentage of people in this poll considered themselves to be unaffiliated. It went up 6.7 percent. So it's a very interesting statistic, and there's been a lot of talk about why this is happening. Some have considered that much of it is driven by the younger generation, people they call millennials. But this actually goes across the board as far as age group is concerned. Apparently religious intermarriage is also, according to this poll, is on the rise. And it says, in the report it says, while many U.S. religious groups are aging, the unaffiliated are comparatively young and getting younger on average over time. As a rising cohort of highly unaffiliated millennials reaches adulthood, the median age of unaffiliated adults has dropped to 36, down from 38 in 2007, and far lower than the general adult population's median age of 46. By contrast, the median age of mainline Protestant adults in the new survey is 52. So it's showing that older people are staying with some of the traditional religions, and the younger people are moving into this area of unaffiliated. So there's a couple of things here that struck me as we talk about the number of Christians declining, but I think it has less to do with Christianity itself, although there was a rise actually in non-Christian faiths, people affiliating themselves in non-Christian beliefs, which according to the poll included Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, and other world religions and other faiths. So apparently all they were looking at here was Christianity. But what I would say is the phenomena seems to be that while the Christians are leaving the churches and becoming unaffiliated, many of them are still spiritual people. So you have that, and then the other side of the spectrum is the evangelical Protestants. Now, both of these groups are non-traditional. They are not in the traditional churches because they find the traditional approach not to be working for them, but for different reasons. The evangelical Protestants have a more strict, more I guess you could call it extreme version of their religious belief that they feel isn't satisfied through the traditional religious churches. So the evangelical Protestants go out and they preach the word on their own. They have tent revivals, and they have mega churches and those sorts of things, and they tend to be very conservative. So those people are recreating their religion, while the other large group, the unaffiliated group, is either dismissing the religion at all, or exploring their own spirituality outside of religious groups. But in any case, it seems to me like we are evolving spiritually in our relationship to what we think of as the divine God. What is the same or similar between the unaffiliated or the spiritual but not religious people and the evangelical Protestants is they see their own relationship with the divine in their own way, and then go off to pursue it in that way, rather than stick with the traditional modes that they perhaps were growing up with. So it's fascinating, and I think it does point to a change or an evolving sensibility among people, regarding spirituality and religion, which, as I often point out on the show, and I won't go on my soapbox today, but always point out on this show that religion and spirituality are not the same. They are quite different, and often religion works at cross purposes with one's own spirituality. So this poll, as I say, is fascinating, and these religiously unaffiliated people, as I say, aren't all atheists, and unfortunately, this poll lumped everybody together. They lumped atheists, agnostics, and spiritual but not religious folks all together in this one category. So I would like to know more about that category and what percentage of them have no particular spiritual belief, and what percentage of them are spiritual but not religious. So it's very interesting to see these changes happening. Now they have three categories in the unaffiliated section. One is atheist, one is agnostic, and one is nothing in particular. So I would say that if you were looking for the spiritual but not religious category, I think that probably would fall into nothing in particular, since those were the only sections that were given. Now there were under the non-Christian faiths, there's a section of other world religions and other faiths. Let's see, other world religions category included Sikhs, Taoists, Jains. Okay, here we go. Now the other faiths category includes Unitarians, New Age religions, Native American religions, and a number of other non-Christian faiths. Okay. So in the other faiths category, 1.5% of those in the 5.9% that consider themselves a part of non-Christian faiths were of the New Age religious variety, or Native American religions, or Unitarians. So those are people who have, rather progressive spiritual beliefs, but do belong to a church. But it doesn't include those who don't belong to a church and are still consider themselves to be spiritually minded. So that's interesting. As I said, I think that probably falls somewhere in the nothing in particular category, maybe 15.8%. But fascinating stuff. Very interesting. Okay, we're going to move on here. We're going to talk about some wellness issues, and we're going to talk about pets. Fun thing to do. Okay, so first things first, dreaming. So dreaming is a very important aspect of our lives, and this article is asking the question: are you getting the dreams you need? So many traditional cultures held dreaming to be vital to physical, mental, and spiritual health. And in some traditional societies, like the Aboriginal people of Australia, it was seen as more important than waking life. So dreaming is very important. I think it's how we actually incorporate so many parts of our world that maybe don't get looked at in the course of our day. And it's also a way of working out problems. It's also a way of relieving stress, all of these things. So now I know for myself, I'm not sure if I'm dreaming or not, because I don't remember often my dreams. It's very interesting. I think that if you begin to make a conscious effort to keep a dream journal, I think that you then do start to become more aware of your dreams. But in any case, there's some tips here about how you can improve your dream life. And the number one, of course, is to get enough sleep. I'm not sure how many of us do that. But they say the most intense dreaming period is often the last 2 hours of a full night's sleep, so don't cut it short. That's interesting. Last 2 hours of a full night's sleep is when the most intense dreaming period is. And they also say to kind of stay away from the pharmaceuticals, the sleep aids, that kind of thing. They often suppress dreaming. And then there are some herbs that have a long history of supporting healthy sleep and vivid evocative dreams. Now let's see if we can take a look at some of those dreaming type of herbs. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll come back to the dreaming herbs and we'll do more about them next week as we do our evaluation here. So we'll talk more about that next week. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do, because we're running a little bit short on time and I've got other things to get to here. So, I'm sorry for the dead air there. Sorry about that. So, let's talk about our pets. So, in research, they've shown that humans are the only animals that keep pets. In other words, you won't see a chimpanzee taking a dog or for a walk, or keeping a tortoise company, something like that. So, making an animal part of the family seems to be something that only humans do, and it's not clear how far back this practice goes. Apparently, thousands of years, ancestors likely kept some wolves around. And may have domesticated them, and that's kind of where dogs came from. And a study published this month, says that this could have happened as early as 27,000 years ago. But ever since, humans have had dogs around, and it's a costly business, but they do provide companionship. But more than that, you may think that your family pet can't do things for you the way that children and other members of your family can, but they do. The evidence that they have found is that pets provide health benefits, such as increased psychological well-being. Some of this research shows that people with pets may have more mental health issues and suffer from increased levels of depression than non-pet owners. But that may be more reason that they have the pet to try to help them through those issues. This research is trying to debunk health benefits of pets, but it's it's inconclusive. A lot of this, a lot of these studies, but there's a lot of reasons why we've had pets in the past. Some for protection. Some for our own, just for our own delight. Some from social cues that, are part of our social world, so we get a dog because everybody else has a dog. And so it's very interesting, the different reasons why we may have pets. I know for myself, I have a doggy. And I certainly believe the health benefits are pretty clear. And there are many others who will attest to it as well. Having a pet can keep you calm, if you're not stressing out over the pet. But, very interesting. So we'll move on to some spiritual perspectives, because that's what our show talks about. And our show also incorporates science. So what I really like to do is show how science and spirituality are connected and support each other. And so that's what this particular article is talking about. Every once in a while you have a realization or an aha moment that's so grand it completely shakes your entire perspective of reality to the core. You don't see things the same way ever again. And then we go about our lives differently. We treat other people differently as well as ourselves. And so once you make this realization, it changes everything for you. So one spiritual perspective, the one that I talk about on this show all the time, that is backed by science, is what they call oneness or the unified field. Ancient spiritual science and many traditions of study point back to singular God in the universe, a concept now being proven by quantum physics. We live in a unified field of energy which interconnects everything. This means that literally the entire universe, every particle, is conscious, and it's exponentially evolving. If our entire world embraced this perspective, flipping truth, we'd be working for the benefit of each other as global organisms. If you truly live from a place of oneness, you will forever be on the path of positive evolution and heartful living. And so that's why I try to remind myself and others on this show, is living from a place of oneness, looking at the world from that place of oneness. And, since every particle, everything in the universe is conscious and we're creating it all the time, everything has something important for you. So we'll talk more about these spiritual perspectives. We'll talk more about the idea of oneness and the interconnectedness. And we'll go back to a book that I talked several years ago about. There's a new version of it out. It's called The Field by Lynn McTaggart, and it talks about the this very concept of the field that interconnects all and everybody. And in that book, she talks about pioneers who who, years ago were involved in research that proved these things, and how their research was not taken seriously. But now, with quantum physics in the game, people are taking a second look at it. So we'll take a look at that next week. And we'll also talk more about these spiritual perspectives, and we'll also take a look at some herbs that might be helpful to improve your dreaming life. So that's all for next week's show, because we are running out of time here. It goes by so fast. So until next time, be well, stay in your dreams, and live from the oneness. See you next week.